You also mentioned in your book and some podcasts that this whole like journey of you and Darren led to some like very meaningful marriage conversations that you probably wouldn't have had.
Yeah.
Tell us about that and tell us how we can sort of be inspired to have those conversations, even if we're not dealing with the same things, and why they're important.
Darren and I will say this all the time, that it is so important to have this conversation because none of us knows what's going to happen. And Darren and I, this night, it was an unexpected night. He was finishing a round of chemo and I had just was making dinner and I poured a glass of wine and I put some music on and he came down and he poured a glass and I was like shocked. I wasn't expecting it. You know, this is right after we got his last diagnosis, which went to the grade 4. So we knew it was like, we were thinking at the time that this grade 4 was going to act more like a glioblastoma. So we thought, you know, maybe he had like a year and a half left. So everything was just a little bit more emotional at that time. But he would still want to be talking about his funeral and joke around about it. I'm like, Darren, you know, like, and we were listening to this song. The song came on and he's like, hey, Jen, I want to have this song at my funeral. And I'm like, laughed it off. I'm like, you know, like whatever. And he's like, no, Jen, like, I really want to talk to you about this. And I was like, really? And it was just like this night where we talked about everything, like what he wanted at his funeral, like truly, like not just joking what he wanted, but like truly like what I was going to do, what he wanted for me, what he wanted for our kids. And then we started talking about me. Like we had this conversation of what does that look like? What does our life look like if something happens to the other person? And which normally you would never have because we all think we're just going to be here forever. But that's not the case. And we put that all out there on one of our podcasts a while ago. It was a couple years ago. And the feedback I got was like so grateful. And some were like, I'm so sad because I'd never had that conversation. By the time I wanted to have the conversation, it was too late. So having that conversation is important, as hard as it is. It's a good one to have because I now know what he wants. He now, you know what I mean? Like, I know what he wants for me. Like, there's no question about anything.
But what would be like your main things that you would hit?
That we were talking about?
Yeah, like if you were recommending having this conversation to like a friend with her spouse, what would be like the main topics you think a person should cover?
Basically, gosh, it's so weird to talk about your funeral, right? And I'm trying to think like if this conversation would have happened for us if we weren't dealing with a diagnosis. But I mean, you know, talking about like, I guess what you would want your funeral to be like. What does that day look like for you? What do you want? Are you getting remarried? Like Darren already had like a guy planned out for me to marry.
Oh my God.
I'm not even kidding. I was like, dude, no. Like, I'm like, do not tell anybody this. But just, you know, like saying that you're okay. What Darren and I came up with, like, I can't remember them now, but like at that moment we were coming up with like signs how to communicate with each other. Like give me signs. Like if I'm doing this right with Drew or whatever, like it was crazy.
But I think what's beautiful about that too is that whether there's a diagnosis or not, there is an element of that, of like bringing you closer.
Totally. It totally did. And there was tears, there was laughter. It was like we drank probably too much wine. We just kept listening to music. It was just such a special night that neither one of us will ever forget, ever.